The air in Sector Kronos didn't just feel thick, it felt like frozen molasses, a viscous soup of spent seconds and stolen heartbeats that made every movement an agonizing struggle against the fabric of reality itself. We call them Chrono-Vampires, a name that sounds like something out of a gothic horror holofilm, but there is nothing romantic about the way they feed. They don't want your blood, they want your latency. They exist in a state of hyper-accelerated existence, vibrating at a frequency that allows them to skim the now right off the top of the timeline, leaving us trapped in the then. When you enter their displacement field, your brain still thinks in real time, but your body responds with the lethargy of a dying star. You pull the trigger and you watch in horrifying slow motion as the firing pin slowly moves forward over the course of an eternity, while the alien, a blur of spectral light and elongated limbs, dances around your trajectory like a ghost in a machine. They are the ultimate apex predators because they have weaponized the one thing you can't defend, the passing of a second. I am Captain Elias, commander of the Pre-Fire Legion, and we are the only thing standing between these temporal leeches and the total stagnation of the human race. We don't fight them with our eyes, we fight them with probability engines. Our power armor is encrusted with millions of microsensors that scan the environment for temporal ripples. Tiny distortions in light and gravity that occur 5 seconds before a chrono-vampire actually occupies a physical space. Our helmets don't show us what is happening, they show us what is going to happen. My HUD is a chaotic tapestry of ghost images and neon lines, tracing the likely paths of monsters that haven't arrived yet. To win this war, we had to learn to shoot at empty air, trusting the math to meet the monster halfway. We are the soldiers who kill the future before it can murder the present. The mission was the destruction of the Prime Siphon, a colossal obsidian needle that had pierced the crust of the planet Viridian 6, acting as a massive vacuum for the sector's temporal energy. As we breached the outer perimeter, the lag death hit us like a physical wall. I saw Private Kale stumble, his heavy armor suddenly feeling like a mountain of lead. A chrono-vampire, looking like a 7-foot-tall shard of distorted glass, flickered into existence behind him. To Kale, the alien was moving at 10 times the speed of sound. To me, Kale was a statue, his mouth slowly opening to form a scream that wouldn't finish for another 10 minutes. My AI screamed a warning, a bright red vector flashing in my visor. Predictive lock. Threat manifestation in 3.2 seconds. I didn't look at Kale. I aimed my hypervelocity rifle at a patch of empty mud 20 feet to his left. I pulled the trigger, and the chrono compensator in my rifle calculated the delay. The tungsten slug left the barrel with a low, deep thrum that vibrated in my teeth, the sound of a bullet trying to fight its way through slowed time. The round hung in the air, a glowing orange streak that seemed to crawl through the atmosphere. But as it moved, the alien shifted. It flickered, its ghost trail following its movement, and it stepped right into the path of my slow bullet. The impact was spectacular. The slug, carrying the full kinetic energy of a railgun shot but released in a zone of compressed time, didn't just pierce the alien, it caused its entire temporal matrix to collapse. The creature didn't bleed, it shattered, its body dissolving into a shower of white-hot sparks that vanished before they could hit the ground. Kale's scream finally finished, a guttural, distorted sound that echoed through the comms. "Keep moving. Don't trust the frame rate." I barked, my voice sounding deep and metallic as the AI processed it to keep it in sync with the squad's perception. We surged forward, our boots kicking up mud that hung in the air like brown diamonds, never quite falling back to earth. The siphon pillar loomed over us, a monument to a race that viewed our existence as a slow-motion banquet. More of them emerged, dozens of shimmering, elongated shapes that seemed to blink in and out of reality. This was a mirror phase ambush. They were cycling their internal clocks to create multiple versions of themselves, a chaotic blur of temporal decoys designed to overwhelm our processors. "Sarah, deploy the strobe grenades. We need to force a sync." Sarah, my demolitionist, reached for her belt. To any observer outside the field, she was moving with lightning speed, but inside the siphon's influence, her hand was a ghost, dragging behind its own silhouette. She clicked the detonator, and a sphere of intense, ultra-high-frequency light exploded in the center of the clearing. These weren't flashbangs, they were phase stabilizers. The light didn't just illuminate the dark, it pulsed at the exact frequency of the Chrono-Vampire's displacement. For a brief, glorious moment, the world snapped into focus. The aliens were no longer blurs. They were solid, terrifying creatures with obsidian skin and four-jointed limbs, caught in a strobe light that stripped away their temporal advantage. "Now, paint them," I roared. The Pre-Fire Legion opened up. This wasn't a tactical retreat or a cautious advance. It was a coordinated erasure. We unleashed a hurricane of lead and plasma into the stabilized targets. Because we were shooting at creatures that were now forced to exist in our now, the kinetic force was devastating. I saw a line of Chrono-Vampires ripped apart as our heavy repeaters chewed through their high-density armor. Their bodies erupted in flashes of chronological distortion, some parts of them aging to dust in seconds, others reverting to a fetal state before vanishing. The noise was a cacophony of distorted screeches and the thunderous, rhythmic booming of our rifles. We were a whirlwind of fire and math, carving a path toward the obsidian needle. As we reached the base of the siphon, the ground began to ripple. The alien tower wasn't just a machine, it was a living conduit. It sensed its defenders falling and reacted by overloading the field. The gravity spiked and dropped, the sky turned into a swirling vortex of colors we couldn't name, and my armor sensors began to melt. My HUD flashed a final, desperate warning: temporal collapse imminent. 60 seconds until total stasis. If that clock hit 0, we wouldn't die. We would simply stop, frozen for 1,000,000 years until the aliens finished grazing on our timeline. Kale? The null charge. Planted on the core, or were statues? Kale lurched forward, his armor sparking as the temporal friction began to sear the metal. Every step he took looked like a series of still photographs. He reached the black, pulsing heart of the siphon, a sphere of swirling void matter that anchored the tower. A massive chrono-vampire, a high siphon, materialized directly in front of him. It was huge, its limbs ending in blades of compressed time that could slice through power armor like it was made of smoke. It raised its claws, moving with a speed that the AI couldn't even calculate. It was a blur of pure lethality. I didn't wait for a predictive lock. I engaged the manual overload on my suit's reactor. I dumped my entire power supply into my servos for 1 second of hyper-accelerated movement. The pain was like being doused in molten lead as my muscles were forced to move faster than biology allowed. I became a blur myself, a human bullet aimed at the monster. I slammed into the high siphon, my shoulder plate shattering on impact, but the force was enough to knock it out of its phase sync. We tumbled across the mud, a chaotic mess of human steel and alien crystal. "Do it, Kale!" I screamed, the sound tearing my throat. Kale slammed the null charge into the core. He didn't use a timer, he hit the manual detonator. The charge didn't explode with fire, it released a wave of anti-time. A sphere of brilliant, absolute white light expanded from the core, swallowing the siphon, the aliens, and the battlefield. It felt like my soul was being pulled through a needle's eye. The world around me shattered into 1,000,000,000 fragments of memory and light, and for one terrifying instant, I saw the beginning and the end of the universe at once. Then there was the snap. It was the most beautiful sound in the world, the sound of a second finally ending. I hit the mud with a wet, heavy thud. The molasses was gone. The air was thin, cold, and moved with the frantic energy of a living world. I looked up and saw the obsidian siphon pillar crumbling, but it wasn't flickering. It was just breaking, pieces of black rock falling at 9.8 meters per second squared, obeying the laws of gravity once again. The chrono-vampires were gone, their temporal anchor destroyed, their physical forms unable to survive in a reality that refused to be stolen. I lay there for a long time, listening to the rhythmic normal-speed breathing of my squad over the comms. Sarah was laughing, a high-pitched, frantic sound that wasn't distorted by a 100-millisecond delay. Kale was sitting up, staring at his hands, watching them move with the speed he commanded. The pre-fire legion had done the impossible. We had taken the now back from the things that tried to eat it. We had fought a war across a timeline that didn't want us to win, and we had emerged on the other side. I stood up, my armor groaning, my muscles screaming in protest of the overload, but I was moving in real time. I watched a single piece of debris fall from the ruined tower and hit the ground with a satisfying, instantaneous crack. The extinction war was far from over, but today time belonged to us. We gathered our broken gear and started the long walk back to the extraction zone, every step a celebration of the present moment, every second a victory we had bought with fire, math, and the refusal to be slow. We are the Pre-Fire Legion, and we don't just hold the line, we hold the clock. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. Time is a gift. Don't let them take yours. If you enjoyed this temporal battle for the future of humanity, smash that like button in real time. Comment below. If you could slow down time for 10 seconds, how would you use it in a fight? The clock is ticking. The war goes on.